Welcome to exploring the role of AI in education and the workplace.
We're two classroom teachers on a mission to make artificial intelligence less intimidating and more inspiring for educators everywhere.
Whether you're just curious about what AI can do or already experimenting with it in your classroom, this podcast is your space to explore, learn, and grow.
Each episode features a two-part format. First, we'll sit down with industry experts to unpack a key aspect of AI, from infrastructure and ethics to creativity and integration.
Then we bring it back to the classroom with a boots on the ground segment, real conversations with educators who are actively using AI with students.
We'll bring you practical insights, honest dialogue, and real-world examples to help you think critically and creatively about the role of AI in teaching and learning.
I'm Georgia Terlahi, an educator with 36 years in the classroom, a former TK5 instructional coach, and a teacher who's passionate about tech integration and sparking curiosity in students.
And I'm Jessica Peck, a middle school teacher, education author, and former California Teacher of the Year. My passion is creating compelling learning experiences.
So let's dive in and discover how AI can empower educators and transform classrooms, one episode at a time.
We are so glad to have you all here with us today to talk about leveraging AI for personalized learning in STEM and beyond. We're really appreciative of your time and your expertise. And to begin, we're hoping you could briefly introduce yourselves and explain the context in which you work. Son, can we start with you?
Yes. Good evening, good afternoon, everyone. Dr. Sun Sam here. I've been an educator for the last 23 years, teacher, principal, district lead. So proud to serve as the National Director of Partnerships with Big Picture Learning. We're an organization that believes in student-driven real-world learning, and that's what we're doing to really shake up education in the U.S. and around the world. So super honored to be here and delighted to join and be a part of this conversation. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you. And can we go to you, Dr. Dixon?
Yes, happy to. Hi, everybody. Cindy Dixon. I am a rewired 44-year public educator. So I left my post as state superintendent, where I've been serving as the last 9 years, in the proud state of Utah, where we have a great public education system, where I have been a teacher and a counselor and a principal district office. And I'm really honored to now be at the University of Utah in the next phase of my career, where I am serving in the College of Education.
We are also joined by another guest today. Chris, can I have you introduce yourself and explain the context in which you work?
Hi, everybody. My name is Chris Agnew. I am the director of the Generative AI for Education Hub that is part of the Stanford Accelerator for Learning. And at the Hub, we launched about 9 months ago, and we aim to be a trusted source for education system leaders on what's working and what's not when leveraging generative AI to benefit students, schools, and learning.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you being here today as well.
We so appreciate all of you being here today. So we're going to start with our first question, and it's for everyone. And Dr. Dixon, if you don't mind starting. So here's the question. How do you define personalized learning, and what challenges do students face that AI tools might help address?
Yeah, happy to answer that. There are a lot of ways to define personalized learning. I think for us in Utah, we think about it as a way to provide education for students where they have choice and voice, and you certainly have a high set of standards and learning outcomes for students, but you support the students based on differentiated needs that they might have. So here's the standard, here's the learning outcome, and how do we help you achieve your goals and your hopes and your dreams? And that feels and sounds a little chaotic, but you can put structures around that. And AI serves as such a great tool to help in that personalized space that it can feel overwhelming for teachers. I certainly taught that way, not thinking about seat time and the ways that we think about the guardrails we have in place for schools now. Those were certainly there, but I thought about it more from a differentiated standpoint as a teacher, and it was really overwhelming to think about a personalized plan for every student. Now AI can really help with that. So when you've got an intended learning outcome, you can use it as a tool to not only differentiate a lesson plan, but tools and learning supports for each student.
That's awesome and so true. Because Dr. Dixon, you and I probably started close to the same time where 30 individualized, personalized plans was daunting. So, definitely a step, just a step in the right direction. Dr. Sam, what does it mean to you? What challenges do students face that AI tools might help address?
Well, I just want to say ditto to Dr. Dixon. And also, I just want to give a quick shout out to Utah in general. Y'all are really, really leading the way around personal education. And I just appreciate it that there's someone who is providing a guiding light for the rest of us in the US. So I just deep admiration and respect. I think the key word in personalized learning is the person. So that's the young person. For us, anyways, I think what it truly means to be one student at a time, as opposed to sort of one size fits all. So I'll be very discreet. Like I think about the challenge of engagement. And so we deal with that because we could center curriculum. Students are the curriculum. So we could build learning around their interests and curiosities. I think about the isolation of students and how important social capital is towards their advancement. And I could see how AI can really connect young people authentically to industry experts and communities who are working on real world problems. I think about agency and leadership. And we do that because we can really bring to young people in an authentic way some of the real world problems that we're grappling with as a society. And they could be the change agents to work on these projects. I think about interdisciplinary learning, where like learning is so siloed and still is. We could totally be more explicit around the skills that young people are exploring and developing and mastering in a very fluid way with AI. And really, lastly, new measures. You know, we still predominantly have one way of measuring what students know. I'm really excited how AI can help young people prove what they know, so we could give them credit for anytime, anywhere learning. So those are just some of the things that we're tinkering with in our network, and I'm really, really excited about that.
If I could double down on something that Son said on that last, I just loved everything you said, Son. So I'm ditto, uh, praise you. Thank you. I want to tap into the community piece too. I think that would be a really interesting space where we think about how do we provide more information for families and parents, and how do we personalize things for context. You kind of hit on that a little bit, but it's one size fits all system where yes, we have intended learning outcomes and supports for families. Sometimes those are not individualized as well, and thinking about the multitude of languages that are spoken in our schools and in homes, and the different tools that families might need to connect to schools. That's a space that I think is ripe for not only somebody to lean in and develop that, but we've got tools at hand that we're probably underutilizing in the AI space to help connect the communities and families.
All right, so here's the question, Chris. How do you define personalized learning and what challenges do students face that AI tools might help address?
So ultimately, I think the definition of personalized learning is pretty simple. Learning that meets the student where they are in the way that's most productive to them. And we could go deep on different contexts, et cetera. A sister lab of the Generative AI for Education Hub, the National Student Support Accelerator, has done a bunch of really important research on tutoring over the last handful of years, a type of personalized learning, and they define high impact tutoring as I think it's helpful because it's a very specific definition. They define it as one-on-one or small group towards a specific goal. It's supplementing but not replacing student classroom experience. It responds to individual needs. And it has strong relationships. So a continued adult or person that maintains through the learning experience. I think personalized learning often can be operationally complex. It can be expensive, as in small ratio. And talent recruitment and retention can also be a barrier. Because it can lead to burnout. It can require like huge output from teachers. It requires high skill. And so I think AI has the potential to be helpful in each one of those categories. Help with the operational complexity, reduce expense, and support teachers in ways that improves talent recruitment.
Dr. Sam, you're known for connecting learning to real world relevance, like you were just talking about. How can AI driven personalized STEM learning better prepare students for a future workforce?
Big picture, when we think about real world relevance, we allow young people, first and foremost, is centered around their interests. Secondly, once they cultivate their interests, we connect them with local experts. And the core of the work and learning that they're doing is solving real world problems. So I just want to highlight quickly an example of this and just how AI sort of integrates into all of these for opportunities for young people to learn and grow and develop those durable skills. So we have a student right now that's a rising senior. Her name is Lars at our Gibson X school in Washington. For years, she's always been passionate about marine biology. The native species to her hometown in Issaquah, Washington, is the king salmon. And so she connected with the experts there and joined an intern for 2 years at FISH, which stands for the Friends of Issaquah Salmon Hatchery. So there she dove deeply into the salmon cycle and learned about, how to keep them safe, the conservation efforts. But one project in particular that she was grappling with and helping to solve was ironically something I had no context for. But allegedly there is a chemical inside tires, specifically containing 6-ppdq, that then runs off into the streams and is extremely, extremely harmful to king salmon. And through her research and support, and this is through all her mentors and through the scientists at King County's Water and Land Resource Division, there's a special soil mixture that they designed that combines sand, coconut fiber, and biochar. And with it, and if the water runs down, if they have it at the bottom before the stream and it runs through it, there's 100% chance survival rate. So when I think of something like that, so local, centered around a young person's interest, them learning from experts in that field, and then them being empowered to really be a part of solving real world problems, AI is just a catalyst for that on all levels. How do they explore and go deeper in that knowledge? How do they apply that knowledge? Connecting with other young people who are trying to solve this similar problem, who's passionate about marine biology. So in all those aspects, I think it really gives young people a step up, not only in just fully engaging them in their learning around something that they're interested in, but is truly preparing them for STEM fields in the future. And that's just one example of a young person really diving deeply into that.
That's such a fantastic example because as an educator, that's like what we want. That's on so many levels what we're shooting for every single day to help our kids become great collaborators and to be like strategic problem solvers and have that layer of creativity. So I just really appreciate you sharing that anecdote. Thank you.
Shout out to Lars. Lars, that's we lifted up Lars.
Chris, you've studied how technology impacts personal learning extensively, and we're wondering if you could speak to what makes AI uniquely capable of transforming STEM instruction compared to traditional digital tools.
I would make a slight friendly revision to your question and say that it is uniquely promising, but not yet uniquely capable. As in, we are in the early days on having data and research to know that definitively it is capable and has these skills. But I would say there's some aspects of Gen AI that show unique promise. The ability to have anytime, anywhere access to meet students where they are and be infinitely patient in their questions and curiosities. An almost infinite knowledge base, often in technically complex areas, is something AI shows great promise in. Its ability to be interactive and responsive, to engage students in their curiosities in a back and forth, use metaphors, make it relevant to their context. And I would say I'd be remiss to not add some things that it is missing as well. Memory is an area where it can be challenged at, and having that longitudinal understanding of student history and learning. It's interactive, and it's relationally performative, but not actually relational. And often it's currently lacking oversight in that many tools out there don't know when to bring in the real human adult on sensitive topics or things like that.
And Dr. Dixon, Dr. Sam, do you have anything that you would like to jump in with in terms of the unique capabilities or possible capabilities of transforming STEM instruction with AI as compared to traditional tools?
Well, I want to underscore exactly what Chris said about that human interaction. I think we have a tendency to jump to bright, shiny things, especially in STEM, because, when you think about technology and engineering and mathematics and science and all of it, that hooks kids into learning because that's the place where you see hands-on and all of the durable skills that Dr. Sam talked about, that they're replete in all of the problem-based work in STEM. So I really believe that it's a place where you can't just put a kid on a tool, but you've got to have that human interaction. And whether it's a lesson plan you're using, an AI tool to develop, or whether it's a tool you're having students engage with, you still have to build in that human interaction. It's really key to all of those things that Dr. Sam talked about our students need to practice.
Yes, cosign. And I think it's really shifting the roles and responsibility of the educator. For years now, our educators have been proud, and I'm not mad at this. I'm super honored that folks love their content. Um, but we have AI now who can deliver content in a way exponentially that we can't. Now, there's pros and cons to that. But for me, the exciting part is as educators, we can now dive into the things that we've never had time for. We can truly, truly do one student at a time. We can truly, truly get to know our young people inside and out, not just academics, but like, who they are as human beings, like their strengths, their assets, their family, their culture. And all that is rich data that we can use to help them excel, grow, and blossom. So I'm really excited about that combination of like really shifting the role of an educator and seeing that combination sort of help young people thrive. Like that's really exciting to me.
So, as we are talking about ensuring human oversight and being able to sort of buy back that time for really meaningful interconnectedness with students, I'm wondering, sort of at like the bigger picture level, at maybe the leadership and policy level, what are some important guardrails or guidelines that schools should maybe have in place to ensure that AI in STEM is being implemented ethically and equitably and with these considerations that we're discussing? Dr. Dixon, could you start us off?
Sure, happy to. Well, from a policy lens and thinking of what policymakers and parents are most concerned about, that's the security and privacy and safety. Like that's just baseline. You have to have that in place. I will say that in Utah, for our public schools, we started right out with an AI framework, and it had all those guardrails in place. And it's a model for our local systems to craft their own policy. We have digital policies in place, but now you layer that with AI, and you still, first and foremost, have to think of safety, security, and data privacy. That's critical, especially in today's world. And then, just thinking about these buckets of guardrails around student learning, what not to do around student learning, teacher supports and operations. So when we think of student learning and the guardrails, everybody jumps to cheating. And here I am in higher ed now, and they're having that same conversation, even on steroids. So, what about cyberbullying? That's something that AI can exacerbate. So having policies around that, having policies around things like grading and plagiarism, and cheating still has to be in the guardrails somehow. So not to discount it, but it's a real thing. So put guardrails that way. In terms of the teaching supports, there are so many tools out there and so many things that say we're using AI or we're a generative AI tool. You need to have policies in place around vetting tools. How do you know that the tool is appropriate for your setting? And so, as a state in Utah, we have a system for vetting tools, and we try to engage in procurement that helps all of our educators have access to tools that they won't have to pay for, but that they can also get training and support on. And then last in that teacher support, I would want to highlight uh, helping teachers know what is truth. Like when you see AI generate something, having the skills, and this is true for our students as well. Uh, is it a reliable source? Is it the truth? Like, what are all the data sources behind what you're seeing? And then last but not least, the operations part. I think there's some pieces to, again, you don't want to compromise privacy. Uh, there are complications around existing policies sometimes. So you have to weigh that against what are the policies that you have in the digital space, all of those things. So those are kind of the don'ts. The do's are just as important, and that should be laid out in a framework. Also, again, thinking about the student, the teacher, even parents and parent access, and the management part of that. I do want to highlight a positive, and I probably should have stated this at the beginning, but one of the most exciting things that has happened in my career is the development of our Utah Porch of a Graduate. So I want to highlight that a bit because I think that when you really flesh out what does it look like to be a graduate from your system, then you start to backwards design that. And we felt like we needed a roadmap. So we called it our Utah map. We all need acronyms, more acronyms. And that's mastery, autonomy, and purpose. And it gets back to that personalized way of thinking about learning. So you certainly have to master skills and knowledge. And within that framework is digital literacy, and AI is infused in that, along with literacy and numeracy and science and social studies, all the STEM things we've been talking about. But then you want kiddos to be autonomous learners. And those are all the C's: great communicators, collaborators, problem solvers, creative thinkers. And then we want kids to have purpose, find purpose in life. And that's where students need to become empathic. They need to become civically engaged and civic minded and really find their purpose in life. So that roadmap for us drives a lot of this work. And that helps when you put the guardrails of don't and wrap that around the levers for do. Here are ways to do things that enhance STEM education.
I love what you're talking about with the science of motivation, with mastery, autonomy, and purpose. I always, just as an aside, I always reread Daniel Pink's book Drive, like right before the school year starts, because I want to understand how best to approach sort of that educational problem solving space. So thank you for that. Dr. Sam, do you have anything to add? Or Chris, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, I have four just quickly. One is I know we're engaged right now, and again, no finger pointing. It's just like what we're dealing with it as, part of disruptive innovation is we as a community are just trying to figure it out. So I don't know if you've observed this, but there's like an AI pendulum happening right now where our teachers are asking AI to really help them design certain task assignments and projects. In the LMS, they send them to the students. The students get the assignment and they ask AI, hey, help me with this. And then the students come back and send it back through the LMS back to the teacher and say, hey, help me grade this. And so we're in a pendulum. So what I want to say is, what is authentic learning? I think communities really have to grapple with that and define that. What it means is just like, what is authentic learning to that community? What's really, really important to them? And how do we design experiences that really highlight that, knowing that AI plays a pivotal role in that interaction between students and teacher. So I think that's one that's really, really important. The second thing is really around equity. I think there needs to be policies. All young people deserve access to the highest quality AI tools, and we don't want lack of resources to be a prohibitive factor to them getting that. I think transparency is really, really important around understanding what AI is, particularly for our parents and our community members, and how it's supporting our students. So I think we have to play a full court press to help bring our parents in to really let them know how we're using AI and what we're doing with AI and how we're helping the young people grow with AI. And lastly, just around humanity. And this is interesting for me to even say this because how do you create a policy around humanity? Uh, uh, that sounds very counterintuitive now that I said it out loud. But really, in the middle of all this, I think, Sydney said it, Chris said it. This is really about enhancing our humanity, not replacing it. So this is much as about deepening our relationships. So that we know, I mean, the research is pretty clear. That is absolutely central to learning. It's critical, like the relationships. So I think that's really important to sort of always, that's an important guardrail as we leverage AI moving forward.
I'll only add a couple or one main thought to the great contributions of Dr. Dixon and Dr. Sam. And Dr. Sam, I heard you allude to this, but within the realm of policies and guardrails and things like that, I can't underemphasize enough the importance of all these policies clearly communicating them to students and to families so that expectations are clear. It regularly, in ways, surprises me in my conversations with students, with families, and with teachers on fundamentally, they just aren't clear on what the expectations are. And I think it's real, right? It's changing so fast that it's hard for districts, it's hard for states to keep up. But I think, I know Dr. Dixon and her team in Utah, they really set the model at the state level of leading with an AI guidance at the state level, hiring a single owner and leader in that realm so that expectations were clear statewide. So at the state level, real leadership there. And then Dr. Sam alluded to it too, as far as his first point on defining authentic learning and having that conversation as a community. That gets to defining, okay, what are our clear expectations here on what learning looks like? So importance of communication on those policies.
These are all great big picture ideas and, in some cases mind blowing because the shift is so monumental just as a culture and society in education. But like thinking of our educators that maybe are in the classroom, what's one manageable way they could start to bring AI into STEM lessons without overhauling their entire curriculum? Dr. Sam, do you have an idea? And I'd like to hear from everyone.
Yeah, just quickly, I think having a purpose for the use of AI is really important. Um, not for the sake. I mean, I really just want folks to just start because how do you learn how to swim? You got to get in the water, right? So I definitely encourage folks to just start, but beyond just starting, but really starting with a purpose, meaning like, what's the challenge that you're grappling with right now in your STEM class? Is it engagement? Is it the interdisciplinary learning? Are you looking for authentic assessments? Is it, like what is one problem that you're grappling with? And then really engage with AI to see if you can solve that in some capacity. So short, simple, sweet, choose a problem that you're struggling with right now and start tinkering with your favorite generative AI.
I think that's great advice. Dr. Dixon, do you have something to add to that?
Well, Dr. Sam kind of stole my thunder, so I'll throw a little lightning on it, which is awesome. In fact, as I look out my window, we've got thunder and lightning here. It's appropriate. Yes to what Dr. Sam just said. And, we surveyed our teachers a few years back on the use of AI, and this won't surprise you, the law of the third. So a third of our educators said, I am all in. And a third said, I don't really know what this is, but okay. And then a third said, no, I'm really afraid of it. So depending on where a teacher is on that continuum of super excited to I'm afraid of it, I think one of the keys is practicing prompts. It's something that we want our kiddos to get good at. And for a teacher to exactly what Dr. Sam said, having a purpose, but practicing the kind of prompts and playing off of those prompts so that you can get very precise about what you need from AI to enhance that human part of your teaching and enhance that personalized support for students.
That's great advice because it's just taking one prompt and you keep revising it and seeing what comes up is such a good skill, but you really do need to practice that and see what the results are. Chris, what do you think? What's a manageable way to start bringing AI into STEM lessons?
Yeah, so as a STEM teacher, I would think of it in two big categories: AI as a tool or AI as a topic of study. So AI is a tool. It can help students engage with, learn, explore a topic. I think AI is particularly well suited to connect abstract concepts to the real world through projects, through metaphor, through community connected learning, areas that Dr. Sam, I'm sure, is expert and has lots of experience in. So as AI is a tool, use it to help students or help yourself plan a project and help students execute a project to make it super tangible. One tool out there, a K-12 AI powered learning tools, Inquire, that helps educators take curriculum and make it into project-based learning work. So that's AI as a tool. Then AI is a topic of study. This would be in the category of AI literacy. So this is helping students understand how AI works, often by working with AI. And great resources all over the place out there. I would point out Teach AI and their AI literacy framework. And they do that by subject area. As AI literacy for math looks different than AI literacy for science, et cetera. So explore areas to build your students' AI literacy through the Teach AI literacy framework. Those would be my two.
That's such great advice. Just the idea that we need to kind of make that common lexicon among students and have that be a part of the fabric of what we're doing in the classroom, no matter what. And also as an extension into the community with parents. I have back to school night tomorrow night, so I'm already thinking about how to frame AI use for parents. Thank you guys so much. I know that AI is an emerging field and things are changing so rapidly. But what innovations do you think are kind of coming down the pipeline that might have a profound effect on STEM education? And how could educators start sort of preparing their skill set now or preparing how they think, maybe their outlook?
Looking 5 years is a long time when it comes to AI, right? As this technology is changing quickly. So I'm not going to pretend to see the future 5 years out, but let's say 12 to 24 months out. I think two areas, um, two areas of development in the technology to keep an eye out for that I think is particularly important for STEM is AI's growing ability in multimodal abilities. So that might sound like a new word to some. By multimodal, what that means is right now most of the ways we engage with AI is through chat and text-based interactions. It has growing abilities in audio, so the ability to speak to AI, and it has emerging abilities in of images and video. In the STEM classroom, when we are to a place of kind of real-time engagement through video, I think that could really change what STEM classrooms look like. So multimodal development. Second category of technical development, I think, to keep an eye on is it's context memory. AI's ability to remember things over time. Right now, in even the large language models, say ChatGPT study mode, its ability to remember a student's development where they're struggling with what they know over an extended period of time is pretty non-existent. Its memory window is short. 2 years from now, these tools may be able to remember back 2 years to what a student was struggling with, where they had proficiency, and its longitudinal ability to track that would have major implications for student learning, specifically personalized learning. And my last plug in this as an educator, as you're thinking about kind of how learning might evolve, I would underscore the importance of getting really intentional as an educator about durable skills and building in relational components to learning, to class, What does team-based learning look like? What does project-based learning look like? What does learning outside in the community look like? These are all things that we've talked about valuing more and more and preparing students for the world of work and life. With the explosion of technology like Gen AI, these are the things that humans maintain unique capabilities on that differentiate us, that employers are demanding. And AI has the potential unique capacities to assess and measure these in the future. So I just get really intentional about creating environments that build those relational skills, build those durable skills.
Listening to you, it led me to think about two things. One is the possibility of students engaging with the world of work in a more authentic way. We're all leaning into apprenticeships, all those kinds of things in our states. And we're lucky that we have the STEM Action Center led by the great Tammy Getz in our state, where it's a connective tissue between industry and STEM education and grants for AI empowerment. Matt Winters, the guru of everything AI education in our state, has really connected educators to a lot of these opportunities. But that future around durable skills in the world of work and thinking about access that Dr. Sam talked about, if you're in a rural and remote part of Utah, will it enable you to have similar experiences to a student who might be in urban Utah and right next door to industry? So thinking about access in the world of work and preparing for the world of work is really interesting to me, coupled with the developing theories and aspects around ethics with AI. The more it develops, the more complicated the ethics around AI becomes. So I think those are two emerging fields that I'm really interested in.
And I would like to offer two that I'm thinking about. Will it happen? I'm not sure. Like, I really don't know. But these are the two things that I'm really excited about. Really is new measures, a more holistic diagnostic of young people growing, mastering knowledge and skill. I think we all know now, by now anyways, that if the assessments don't change, practice doesn't change. And for someone who's been doing work, really leading with one student at a time, that's what we've been up against for 30 years, you know? And I'm super excited because AI has the potential to really, really help us validate and give credit to what young people know and what they're mastering, specifically to skills in real time. And we can explain that and measure that up with a bunch of holistic measures that can give weight and credit to what young people are doing. So I'm super excited from the assessment standpoint. And just one last thing is really just adaptive learning systems. So when I mentioned authentic learning, what I really want to highlight is the process of learning. So having AI as a thought partner with a young person as they're going through the process of learning. This is really interesting too, because Gemini has put out the learning guides where it's not spitting out answers to young people, but it really giving them good questions to think about and asking them how would they go about solving this problem. And then adaptive in the sense of by analyzing the response that young people are putting in, they are in real time giving the supports that they need, giving them different questions. So really adapting to the students because they can identify where the gaps are in their learning and interject like right away. So those two things are really, really exciting to me. But I mean, we're hopeful, we're ideal, and it's moving pretty fast. So I hope we get there.
It's all such exciting ideas. And as we come to like wrap up the conversation, I was wondering if you could, each of you, just give one piece of advice to educators about using AI to personalize STEM learning, kind of like your Netflix pitch to leave them with. What would your advice be?
Keep young people at the center of everything.
Yeah, I agree with that. Think about the ways you can use it and then just start practicing.
I'm going to focus on the personalized component of that. AI is a really potentially powerful tool in personalized learning. And I would encourage educators to not confuse personalized learning with isolated learning, in that with a really powerful tool, personalized learning could actually become isolated learning. So think continually about bringing group learning relational components into it. And big picture, inspire students to get curious and critical about AI. How does it work? What's it do well? What's it do poorly?
Thank you all so much for joining this conversation today. We've learned so many incredible things, and I think we have been left with so many incredible things to think about. Like, I want to go think about things and have more conversations. But before we let you go, would each of you share where listeners could reach out to you if they want to continue this conversation? Chris, can we start with you? Where can listeners find you?
So good ways to find me individually, probably on LinkedIn. Easy to find there. And I'd encourage people to visit the Generative AI for Education Hub website. We have a research repository that has all the current research on Gen AI relevant to K-12, updated monthly. So people can use that as a regular tool to answer the question, what does the research say? And subscribe to our newsletter.
Thank you. Dr. Dixon, where could listeners find you?
I'm always good for an email and follow up with a chat. So Sydney.Dixon, SYDNEE.Dixon, DICKSON at utah.edu. And I would really recommend that you go to schools.utah.gov if you want to look at our portrait of a graduate in Utah or anything AI in relation to a framework or tools that are out there.
And Dr. Sam, where could listeners find you?
Combination of both. LinkedIn, always there, and email to Dr. Dixon. I'm the same. It's just son@bigpicturelearning.org. And please check out our website, bigpicture.org, if you want to find more. But I'd be excited to continue the conversations.
Now that we've heard from the experts, it's time to take it to the classroom.
This is our Boots on the Ground segment, where we talk with real educators doing the real work with AI right alongside their students.
Let's hear how AI is making a difference in schools today.
Well, thank you so much for being here today. We are so excited to be able to talk to educators who are actually doing the hard work of personalizing learning using AI in the classroom. We're joined today by two very special guests, Brent Warner and Michelle Eckler. Could you both briefly introduce yourselves and kind of explain the educational context in which you work? Maybe Michelle, could we start with you?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I am Michelle Eckler. I currently serve as the Director of Instructional Technology in the Stratford Public Schools in Stratford, Connecticut. I supervise a team of technology integration specialists whose job is to really help our teachers figure out how to put technology in their classrooms in a way that makes sense. And our big focus this year is rolling out a major AI platform for our students and our staff.
Amazing. Thank you. And Brent?
Yeah, hi, my name is Brent Warner. I am a professor of English as a second language at a community college in Southern California, down in Irvine, California. I work with language learners of all ages who are trying to get themselves ready for, college and life in America. And I have a heavy focus on how to use tech to help them learn and how to help them become independent in their own learning as well.
And I love that today we get this perspective, K-12 and higher ed. That's great. We haven't really had that yet. So first question is for both of you. How do you define personalized learning in your context, and what challenges do your students face that AI tools might help address? And Brent, can we start with you?
Sure. So for personalized learning, kind of the way in the language world, a lot of people talk about Stephen Krashen and his input hypothesis, which is, for those who know this is what we call I+1. So it means you're trying to push a little bit past the level of comfort that students are in. And so part of that personalization is kind of recognizing where students are in their learning and then trying to give them just enough challenge that's not discouraging for their work. And then also trying to get work that is contextualized to their interests and contextualized to things that they're experiencing in the world. And so whether that be for me, in my case, I like to do a lot of things related to their hobbies or their personal interests and bring those things into the classroom. But it could also be that because in my setting we have mixed people from all over the world, and so we also get a cool opportunity to introduce different cultures to each other as we're learning together. And so we try to bring those language points together and the cultural points together in a way that makes it more fun and enjoyable for the students to learn.
I think I would really like being in your class just from that description. Michelle, how about for you?
Sure. So one of the things that we're really focusing heavily on this school year in our district is to really emphasize our portrait of a graduate. And so that the whole idea behind our portrait of a graduate is that those are transdisciplinary transfer goals. And so anything that the students do within the portrait of a graduate actually goes beyond just the content of the class that they're in. And so we're really trying to push our teachers to find assignments and activities that can allow the students to bring in their own personal interests, maybe always related to the content, but always geared towards that portrait of a graduate. And alongside that, our superintendent has really put a heavy focus on student voice this school year. And so that goes beyond choice, right? Like we all know choice is super important, but we're really trying to lift our student voices. So we're starting a district-wide podcast. We're going to have the students as guests on it. Our students are actually starting to record our Board of Education meetings for us. So they'll be doing all of that. So we're trying to get the students involved more. And so ultimately what we're doing is giving them a wide variety of opportunities to really focus on what interests them in the district and really trying to push them towards that. And we're hoping that our integration of the AI tool that our district has purchased is going to help them when it comes to maybe coming up with ideas for things that they want to do. If they're stuck on how they might do something, they can, talk to the bot within the system and start to get some more ideas as to how they can move their learning in a direction that makes sense for them.
That's such a great future forward approach to have the sort of like almost job skill opportunities to be able to do the recording and the content creation, because that's so the world that we live in and that we're preparing students for. And I like too that they get that opportunity to have the thought partner through AI. Brent, could you talk a little bit about how student facing AI tools can be culturally and linguistically responsive, especially for those multilingual learners?
So one of the things that I like to do for my students, when you preload the AI conversations on the back end, right? I mean, I think we know that if you just give them AI to work with, it's going to have the inherent bias built in. These things are problematic, and you know don't necessarily represent the students in the way that they see themselves. And so one of the things that I do, like I'll use a tool like PlayLab, right? And so I can kind of build the back end and then students can interact with it on the front, but I've already kind of personalized it towards the needs of my students. So for example, I might say things like, a lot of times I might do something like try to do things that are around talking about life in Southern California and use landmarks that students might be aware of, because as they're coming into the country, they're like already learning some of these places, Disneyland, for example, or whatever else it is, but they're close to them and their cultural experiences that the students might be getting. And then also on the back end too, you can push it to really understand who students are. So I was writing about this very recently, and you have to be a little bit careful, but you can upload things like I collect my students' information at the beginning of the semester. They fill out a form, they tell me their hobbies, they tell me like what musicians they like, and then I put that information not all as one big group, but I'll put it into the back end, and so that when the AI is talking to them, it will pull out classroom level like interests and locations and languages and examples of countries and people that are not just uh you know Brent Warner, or like kind of the typical things, but it will actually maybe pull their names. I try to be careful, only use their first names, for example. I'm not uploading all the student data into it, but bits of their interests, bits of who they are. And then when you have that as the back end information for the students to interact with, they might be reading examples that are about, themselves or their classmate next to them, or talking about the city that they came from or a musician that they're interested in. And so when they start interacting with those things, they become more they get locked in, right? Like, how does it know about these things, right? It's like, well, I kind of set it up that way, but then they are more likely to interact with it at deeper and longer levels. And then one of the things for language learning too is that you can actually put like skill levels into it. And so I typically use what's called the CEFR, the Common European Framework level for skills. Other people like to use, like TOEFL scores and different test scores, like levels that students might be at. But then you can say, hey, my class is generally at this level. Please adjust the way that you're outputting information so that it is comprehensible to them. I will also do things like, don't translate for them unless they push for it 2 or 3 times, and then just give them one word. And so kind of trying to help them stay on track with what they're looking for, but encourage them to keep moving forward with it. So those are a few of the things, techniques that we might use to be able to lock in with our students and make it feel more personal to them.
I really love how you're using the constitutional AI to kind of like dictate how the tools interact with kids, because in a STEM learning program, like it seems like some of the vocabulary could be prohibitive for language learners to participate, and maybe some more concrete examples that are a little more relatable could come in handy. So it just seems like that's a really smart idea. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, and if I can follow up on that just quickly, with things like that, if they're doing STEM, a lot of times students from other countries know the content in their language, but not so much in English. And so just little hints on like, hey, this vocabulary word is this, right? And this vocabulary word is this. And so they can just kind of keep moving forward. They know the content in their brains, but they don't necessarily know the language, and so it can help them pick it up as they're going along too.
I like too that you're giving some concrete examples for educators listening of how like teachers have to be the conductor of the orchestra. You're doing all this stuff behind the scenes. Like AI is not taking over teachers' jobs at all. And I think, there's some chatter that people are worried about that. And I think that was a beautiful explanation, Brent, of how much thought goes into all these things to make these experiences so personal for the students, but also AI is not doing that for you. You have to be very intentional and personalized. Michelle, I want to ask you, how might AI tools help students develop greater agency or independence in their learning, particularly those who are traditionally rely on more adult support?
I think the best thing that we're really trying to push towards with our students is getting them to use AI as maybe their first line of defense when it comes to not understanding something. So, you always have the teachers who would do this, ask two before me and things like that. So we're going to try to push our staff to start thinking about the idea that you can also ask the AI before you ask me, like ask it for help. And we actually, as a district, we're a magic school district this coming school. Well, actually this school year right now, we started already. And we are having our teachers are trained now. Our students are going to be going through digital citizenship training before we actually open up the AI side for them. But we're going to be working with our teachers on helping them to understand how to build those bots within Magic School, so then they can make sure that the AI is not just giving the student the answers. Like, how are you going to train your AI bot to be able to ask the student additional questions or probing questions to get them to think about it themselves? Because one of the elements of our portrait of a graduate is to be critical thinkers and to, be able to think on their own. So we want them to be able to use that as a tool to do that. And then also, how can that help them when they're in group situations where maybe they have a couple of different ideas? And so, talking to a bot and the AI to say, hey, this is what we're trying to solve. We can't come up with a solution together. Here's the 3 or 4 ideas from our group. Can you kind of look at this and say, hey, here's where we all do meet together and maybe we can move forward with that. But we really want to make sure that when our students are going in to use the AI, they're using it in such a way that it's helping them to learn more. And I think that goes back to that idea of student agency, really, really pushing the envelope when it comes to truly understanding what it is that they're doing within the system. Um, and I mean, we also have a very large special education population in our school district. And so we're hoping that we can utilize some of the tools in Magic School to help them, providing them with additional support when they're doing activities, maybe have some things that are pre-programmed based upon whatever that activity is in class. It really does, like you said, it comes down to what is the prep work that we're doing as educators to make sure that when our students are using those tools, that they're actually getting what we want them to get out.
I really love what you're talking about with special education students and that sort of just-in-time help, because when students at the secondary level are coming into a mainstream classroom and maybe they're used to a smaller group, it can be a little intimidating. It would be so nice for them to know that they have another helpmate right there, that maybe that's their comfort level. So I just really appreciate that. For both of you, as we're, kind of trying to wrap up our discussion a little bit, in what ways could AI tools support either the real-time feedback piece or differentiated instruction? Maybe in a way that could lighten teachers' workloads, because we know that teachers' plates are very full.
So I'm actually a former English teacher. That was my first life. I was an English teacher and an English supervisor. And I could definitely see where English teachers and honestly anyone that has writing in their classes can teach students to use an AI tool as a way to get initial feedback on what they've written. I love the idea of being able to put what they've written into a chatbot and then ask it questions like, did I meet the teacher's standard when it came to how my introduction is supposed to be written? And what am I missing when it comes to the evidence that I'm supporting? And I think that if we allow our students to start having those conversations about the work that they are ready to submit with an AI tool, it's going to give them the extra layer of kind of feeling successful. Because I remember lots of times doing things like peer editing in class. And you gave the kids a peer editing worksheet, and no matter how many times you've trained them, sometimes you have that student who just gets the, oh, that's great feedback, and that's not helpful to them. And so this is like another step in the process to say, hey, let's take a look at how my writing is going, really take the opportunity to dig deep into what I've done, and then be able to feel like what they turn in is their best work.
I do some of the the things that Michelle is talking about there. They work really well, and kind of combining. I think the great thing is that it's additive, right? We can add these things on top of it. So it's not like, oh, we have to get rid of this old practice. It's like, so for me, if I still do peer reviews, but I also link in like an AI review on top of that as well. So we say, hey, let's first look at AI feedback, and then let's look at like your peer review feedback, and then let's work through. So that can be one cycle where it becomes the student's work and the student's effort trying to figure out what's going on. Another thing, this does depend on maybe on your age of your students and the level, but for language learning, prompting is language use, right? Prompting is communication. And so for me, having my students write their own prompts or trying to build their own kind of, mini bots to interact with is a really great practice for them, because once they start seeing that feedback, then they're trying to evaluate the quality of it and like, can I trust this? Can I not? And so the other part that I love about it is the sneaky introduction of critical thinking skills and saying, hey, how often should I be trusting this stuff, right? Is it telling me the right information? Do I have enough knowledge to make that judgment or not, right? And therefore, am I going to just trust it to make what it's making for me? And I really want that piece in my class a lot, because I think it's very important for students to recognize that their ability to judge the quality of the output is going to be, absolutely vital for their successful use or for their successful learning, whatever their goals end up being. And so it can't just be, I'm going to have it make something for me, but it's got to be like it's a learning partner or it's a learning support system for me. And so when they are creating their own prompts and seeing whether it's doing what they want it to do or not, and then also depending on the quality of the language or the level, they might say, hey, do I trust what it's telling me about those? I think that to me, I start seeing students doing that more without me telling them to do it. There's like, oh, okay, hold on a second. I can check these things. I can build ways to check for myself. And that then does take some time off of, my load. I will say, like, the AI, does it totally make us much more free? I don't think that's the total reality. I think the reality is we're moving our workload in different places. But it is really useful to be able to let them prioritize their work and their learning in certain ways, and then I can shift my stuff to really more student support, which is where I'm spending more of my time now.
And I love that all of the things both of you have mentioned can translate really to any curricular area. Not just language learning, not just English, but STEM and social studies and everything. It's really, really good, I think, advice for teachers trying to figure out where is this going to fit into my lesson planning and how I'm meeting my kiddos' needs. I know time is up. Sometimes, I'm not happy with how fast time goes, but that's a story for a different day. As we wrap up this discussion, where could listeners find you if they'd like to continue the conversation? Michelle, where could listeners find you?
I'm on LinkedIn. You can find me under Michelle Eckler, and I'm also on Instagram at Dr. M. Eckler, EDU.
I'm also mostly on LinkedIn at Brent G. Warner, and you can also find me at brentgwarner.com.
Thanks for joining us on this journey into the world of AI in education. This podcast series has been brought to you by the Utah STEM Action Center and STEM Connector. If today's conversation sparked ideas, questions, or curiosity, we've got more for you. Head over to our podcast portal for extended learning at aistemcast.com.
You'll find curated resources, classroom-ready tools, and ways to dive deeper into each episode topic. We're building a community of educators who are ready to explore what's possible with AI, and we would love for you to be a part of it.
Until next time, keep learning, stay curious, and don't be afraid to dive into something new.